Picture this: an isolated farm 6 kilometers outside Canmere. A local farmer vanishes. When his body is found, guard eye initially think chainsaw, but forensic scientists hit a wall. The wounds are too clean, the cuts too precise, with no chainsaw oil, no sawdust, no mechanical residue. Now investigators are saying it was a sword-type blade, not a roaring chainsaw, but a silent, sharp weapon slicing with intent. All the forensic signs scream blade, a single, cold-edged strike from a long weapon, and that shifts everything. The early theory, a chainsaw. It made sense at first, but when the forensic team examined the body, everything changed. The wounds weren't messy, they were clean, too clean. No splintering, no ragged edges, no traces of oil or sawdust. These weren't the brutal tears of a power tool. They were sharp, silent, and surgical, the kind of damage only a long, single-bladed weapon could inflict. The kind you don't just own, you choose for a reason. That's when the guards stopped thinking about noise and started focusing on intent. Ask yourself this: if you plan to kill someone on a remote farm in the Irish countryside, why choose a sword? Not a gun, not even a knife, a sword. That's not convenience, that's deliberate. A sword is quiet. It doesn't jam, it doesn't draw attention like a chainsaw would. It doesn't leave behind gunpowder, shells, or sound, and in the wrong hands, it's lethal fast. Whoever did this didn't panic. They didn't grab the nearest tool in a moment of rage. They came with something very specific: a long, sharp weapon. A weapon built to kill efficiently and disappear just as quietly. There's one name the guards keep circling: Michael Kelly, an American, not just a visitor, someone who worked with the victim, someone who knew the land, the routines, the blind spots. And here's the part that sticks. Kelly flew back to the United States shortly after the killing. No delay, no mourning, just gone. Now the guards are digging into his past, and it's not clean. There are whispers of militia connections, a comfort with weapons most people wouldn't touch. In rural Ireland, a sword is rare. In parts of rural America, it's a hobby, even a symbol. You don't need a motive yet when the timeline is screaming, because if it wasn't him, then someone else managed to move just as fast and stay just as invisible. The murder didn't happen in a city street or a crowded pub. It happened on a quiet farm 6 kilometers outside Kenmare. Rolling hills, stone walls, and silence. No traffic, no cameras, just fields, sheds, and time. Whoever did this knew that. They knew the victim was alone. They knew how long they had before anyone noticed, and they knew how to hide a body in a place where secrets don't echo. This wasn't random. It was timed, calculated, carried out in a place chosen for its silence and for the freedom it gave the killer to strike, clean the scene, and vanish into the green. When most people think of murder, they imagine a moment of fury, a fight gone too far, a sudden snap. But this wasn't that. You don't show up to a rural farm with a sword unless you've already decided what you're going to do. You've visualized it, you've rehearsed it in your head, and most importantly, you're ready to clean up afterward. The killer didn't just attack, they dismembered. That takes time, nerves, steady hands, and it takes someone who's either done it before or someone whose emotions are completely shut off. No panic, no hesitation, just cold, mechanical execution. That's not a crime of passion, that's purpose. And if that doesn't shake you, consider this: they left almost no trace, no weapon, no chaos, just a clean job in a quiet place. That's not just murder, that's experience, or obsession, or both. Let's talk about the weapon. A sword isn't something you stumble across in rural Kerry. It's not lying in a shed next to a hammer or a pitchfork. If someone used a sword, they either brought it or they kept it hidden. That alone speaks volumes. And the choice, it's strategic. A sword doesn't roar like a chainsaw. It doesn't need bullets. It doesn't jam. It's quiet, precise, easy to clean, harder to trace. The guards didn't find sawdust. They didn't find casings. They didn't find splatter patterns you'd expect from a frantic, loud killing. What they found were clean cuts and silence. The kind of silence you only get when a killer knows that every second counts and every sound can give them away. Here's what makes this colder than most cases: the weapon is gone, not abandoned, not forgotten, gone. That tells us the killer didn't just come to kill, they came prepared to disappear. They brought the weapon in, used it with precision, and took it out without leaving so much as a trace. No blade tossed in a hedge, no bloodied tool hidden in a barn. Whoever did this either buried it deep, burned it, or took it across a border. That's not luck, that's logistics. It means they thought beyond the kill. They thought about evidence, about forensics, about timing. And that kind of thinking that comes from someone who's either done it before or someone who made damn sure this would be the only time they'd ever need to. This wasn't the work of a stranger wandering in off the road. The killer moved with purpose on land that wasn't theirs, but felt familiar. To dismember a body and delay discovery in a rural area like this, you have to understand more than just violence. You have to understand the rhythm of the land. When neighbors come and go, where the ground is soft enough to dig, which tools leave prints, which paths don't. This wasn't just murder, it was a performance of invisibility, no signs of struggle, no blood trail through the fields, and no eyes caught anything because whoever did it moved like they'd walked that ground before. Not just physically, but mentally. They knew what the guards would look for and what to leave behind. In murder, timing can be louder than a weapon, and in this case, it screamed precision. Mike Gaine wasn't killed in the middle of a storm. He wasn't attacked during some late night struggle. No alarms were raised, no frantic phone calls, no neighbors heard a thing. He simply vanished on a quiet day in a quiet place where everyone minds their own business. That silence, it worked in the killer's favor. They chose a moment when no one was expected to visit the farm. No deliveries, no appointments, no friends dropping in. It was the kind of day where if something terrible happened, it might go unnoticed for hours, maybe days. And that's exactly what happened. By the time someone realized Mike hadn't been seen, the clock had already burned away the most valuable thing in any investigation: fresh evidence. The killer knew they had that gap. They used it efficiently. They didn't just kill and run. They stayed long enough to clean, to cover their tracks, to remove the weapon, and to get as far away as possible before anyone realized something was wrong. This wasn't reckless. It wasn't messy. It was timed like a plan that had been played out in someone's head again and again until it was perfect. And now, weeks later, the land still hasn't spoken. But the silence it left behind, it's screaming that whoever did this didn't just want Mike dead. They wanted to disappear with no shadow of a trace. You've heard the cuts weren't rough. You followed the silence, the timing, the vanishing weapon. Now ask yourself this: why a sword? Not because it was handy, not because it was close, because it was chosen, deliberately, silently, symbolically. This wasn't a tool, it was a message. And now it's your turn to read it. Drop your theory in the comments. Was this a cold-blooded professional, a personal revenge, or something even darker? Because the weapon might be gone, but the truth, that's still buried somewhere. And maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for you to dig it up.